Hey, got a pretty cool pod for you today. I sat down with Moe Flohr, who is one of the hosts of the new Relatable Podcast. He's the youngest guest I've ever had. Fascinating guy. We talked about podcasting, different ideas. Got into, obviously, whenever I talk about podcasting, we talk about Flatbush Girls, so that got in there. And many other topics. My favorite part was when we talked about masculinity and femininity and some really cool ideas about being young today. So really cool pod. Also check out his Relatable Pod. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, write comments, try to spread the good word so we can keep having these awesome conversations. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
We're live.
We're
We
live.
are live.
Let's go.
Okay. Dude, I think you are officially the youngest person I've had on my podcast.
Let's go. I don't know where I'm looking. I'm looking at the camera.
No,
Let's
you're looking
go.
at me.
That's if
right. You want to get dramatic.
Okay, right. This is exactly why. Okay, we got it.
So you got it?
Yeah, we got
Okay.
it. This is.
If you want to get real dramatic, you look in there and you get a good clip going.
Yeah.
Youngest, but I am very excited about people starting new pods, especially ones that are somewhat meaningful and interesting. And I'm checking out your stuff. And then we got in touch with each other.
Yes.
And then I was like, this is really cool to have you on.
Let's go. I appreciate it.
But
Means a lot. Really does.
oh, you're welcome.
It's a little embarrassing, I'll be honest, because as we were speaking before, most of our content isn't even out yet. So like the stuff you're seeing now is like from the beginning, and the good, really interesting conversations haven't even been posted yet. So I'm really excited for you to listen to those and the audience as well.
All right. So first of all, the name of the pod. Relatable Pod.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
I started my pod deep in my 40s.
Right.
And we could talk about reasons why I started it, but basically,
Let's get into that.
I didn't really want to do lectures, and I wanted my ideas and other ideas that I love to come out. So I hid in my basement and did pods. Not my basement, my office. But you are 17 years old.
That's right.
And you're doing it with your partner. What's his name again? Sorry.
My partner is Arya Sova.
Arya Sova.
Met him in Fishers from Miami.
Who's the one who brainstormed it? Brainstorm Podcast.
Let's go. Brainstorm. When you say brainstorm, what exactly do you mean?
No, who said let's do this? Well, is it like a total mutual thing, or
it was very mutual. I think the origin story is a little bit boring. We haven't really tapped into exactly why yet. That's something like we're working on right now. The lame version is like we were in Ramat Eshkol for Shabbos, and we were davening at a really schwach minyan. We step outside like for Kabbalah Shabbos, and we're just like talking about how connecting to the actual davening is so important. Like we can't just show up to shul and then like we're expected to connect to Hashem, and just like we were just depressed. Not depressed, but it was a really bad vibe. Then we got into like a whole loop in this whole conversation. I was like, that would be really cool if we could post this online. Like just record that conversation and post it. And then one thing led to the next. We started fundraising for equipment. We started doing research on editing and how to interview people, this, that, the other. And then kind of one thing turned to the next. Like 4 months later, we had our first podcast and got things started.
That's really cool. Well, so the idea, listen, everybody sits around and goes,
right,
hey, dude, we should start a pod.
Exactly.
And I will tell you that 99% of those people don't start a pod.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like you're a type of guy who actually does the things you think of doing.
Yeah.
Will that talk about your awesome business?
We could do that.
Dude, how is it your family makes businesses at 2 years old? What is going on? Your brother has this little thing?
So Yishai, shout out.
I only know about it because that awesome ad he made.
Yes.
What's the name of his business? We'll shout it out.
Shiner Mobile Detailing. Yeah, shout out Yishai. Let's go.
What does it say slower?
Shiner Mobile Detailing.
Shiner Mobile Detailing.
Yeah.
And yours is another one.
Moe's Mobile Detailing. We work together, guys. Shalom bias. It's all good.
At Moe's Mobile. But you guys are both like real young, starting up. This is very important. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about this. No, that there are throughout our life, we get a zillion different ideas and we never do them.
We never execute.
So what are you doing? You're like watching a lot of Jordan Peterson or like?
I love Jordan Peterson.
You love Jordan.
I think between me and you, it's more I'm trying to like put into words. I tried to step away from like over educating myself in a certain thing before I do it and just execute, like start now, figure it out later. Like in every single venture I've started or any endeavor, whatever you want to call it, I've made thousands of mistakes, hundreds and thousands. Like even we were just speaking about before the podcast, how all the technical difficulties starting our podcast, and half of them, there's only one clip of the video and this is cut out, that's cut out, just because it's, it's the beginning. So I think being able to detach yourself from like being a perfectionist would really, really help me, because that's my personality. So yeah, you just got to do it. That was like the main thing. Just start. We start from zero.
Is this like how you grew up? I'm curious with like in your family, is this a thing that people do? Like,
not particularly. Both my parents are entrepreneurs, not particularly so successful. But
they have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Definitely.
So I'm saying the idea of do it before. I happen to love that idea, because the best business advice I ever heard was, if you have the best thing you can do in business is just do it. That's the whole advice.
Yeah.
Meaning you're gonna start. It's gonna suck. It's gonna be good. There's gonna be good parts. The things that are gonna work are surprisingly not the things you thought were gonna work. And I have a thing where I once brought my car in to get fixed. And I said, I got a really big problem and I got a really small problem. And one of them was the transmission was like, so that looked really bad. And then the other one was like, I don't know, it was like something like clicking or whatever, nothing. And then then I came back and he said, you're right. You have a really big problem and a really small problem. The transmission, you're just missing a screw. And so that I did not even charge you for. The other one, that's a big problem. And then he explained to me that. So that's how I feel about like how we start things.
Nice.
Like we go in, we think, I got
it's the biggest.
Oh, I can have great conversations.
I
could do that. And then those things.
It took a second to register. Yeah.
You're getting the muscle.
Exactly.
You're like, what is this weird
story? I was
story?
like, wait, transmission, big problem. Then I was like, oh, the little screw. Right.
Yeah.
So I agree. So I agree. We like to magnify everything, and we get shiny object syndrome. You see this guy, let's say detailing, for example. I see this guy on Instagram with 1 million followers and he's making $1 trillion a year. I'm like, yo, how do I get there? I just start, like you think you're going to be there in a minute. And also that it's super scary when every image and every person you're looking up to is this big like goal. Like they made it and you're trying to emulate them and you're starting from zero. Like it's so scary.
It always feels like you missed the curve.
Of course.
It always like, oh yeah, when Joe Rogan was making his podcast, no one had podcasts, so he blew up.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
So nobody wants to even try.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing.
Millions of podcasts.
Everybody's trying to sell you though. Like you'll see on social media that everybody's trying to sell you their course, how to get there in 30 days. Like, yo, you're full of crap. You're not getting anywhere in 30 days. Start.
Have you bought any of those courses?
No, because I don't believe in that. But
you don't buy it.
But I think that's like the short term, like instant gratification.
Okay, so what's the point of your pod? Okay, so you're saying you're having a great conversation.
Yeah.
Let's put this on a pod. Then you decide you're going to do a pod. How do you? Then you're telling people, I want a pod. Can you give me like $1,000 so I could buy a camera? Like,
nice.
What do you,
nice.
That's what you're doing. I mean, why are people getting excited about it? But really, okay, that's not my question. My question is, why?
Yeah.
I know you say you don't have the greatest backstory, but like, what was the purpose? Yeah, we have a good conversation.
Yeah.
But then, by the way, I'm watching a couple of your pods, and it wasn't for research for this podcast. I have watched.
Nice.
It's hard to watch a full pod in general.
Sure.
And I forgive everybody who doesn't watch my full pods. But a lot of your pods are very meaningful. You have a lot of really interesting, meaningful content. You don't have that many pods out yet. How many pods you got out? Like, I got you real early.
8 or 9, yeah.
When you're famous, don't forget the little.
Yo, we're gonna be doing this together, man.
So it's 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Someone told me this guy Yitz Klein I had on. He said that your pod is not real.
Okay.
Till you have like 47 or something. He had some number.
What's the number 47? I did research.
No, he had some research of like, when is it like locked and loaded? What do you have?
So
I'm making up a number.
Yeah, I heard that after the 6th podcast, that's like when 99% of podcasters stop.
Meaning they only make it to 6? So you're at 8.
Yo, we're good.
Bro.
we're good. We're set, man. Let's go. But yeah, back to your question. I think it's a couple key factors. Number one is curiosity. I think there's a part of me that connects to a lot what you were saying before we started the podcast about just like the open-mindedness. Like with the Flatbush girl, everybody went crazy. Like as soon as I saw you interviewed her, also I was like, what the hell? Yo, like this is not, what's going on? This is not cool. And then I listened to it and like there's a beauty to the fact that like I don't have to agree with you, but I want to hear your side. So on our podcast, we haven't had much controversy yet.
Right.
But I'm definitely open to
you
it.
can get Flatbush going.
Exactly. Fine. We might have to hit her up. She might be too big for me now.
Yeah.
But I think there's certain curiosity
It'll
that
piss
motivates us a
anybody
lot.
off. I promise you.
Yeah. Curiosity is one of the big things, as well. Selfishly, like I love making these connections.
Do you want to hear it? Okay, so let me tell you Flatbush Girl for a second. Let's get into, we'll talk about a podcast for a second, but you started me and I told you before I tell you a little bit more about
We're entering a
Flatbush Girl.
dangerous pit right now.
So one of the things I think that about me that really upsets people, I think one of the things that really upsets people is that I am almost open-minded to a point of like, stupid.
Right.
Like, stop it. But it's not that. It's that in every person, and this is what makes me want to help people and spend my time trying to get to, is within every person, there are many parts, and some of those parts are wonderful, and some of the things are great. And it's hard for me not to see every part. That's my issue. So when I'm talking to somebody, even if I fully disagree with some things they're saying, I'm trying to find the things I do agree with, and I love that. People watching are like yelling at the screen going, why don't you tell her that, da, 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 and there's, and truth is, I didn't disagree because she was saying good ideas, and I was able to weed it out from a lot of the things she does, which I may not agree with. But what she does and what she's saying and what she's actually making happen with the gets, I had very strong agreements and all those things.
Sure.
And I'm having a civil conversation. So people like, you're platforming, there's all that stuff. But I actually, this is the cool idea that I'll say it because of why not, is that, and I gave it in this class the other day, is that Flatbush Girl, this is the analogy of addiction. Flatbush Girl is the rock bottom of the Jewish community. And what it means is that in addiction, no one really gets better until they hit a rock bottom. Now, what is a rock bottom? A rock bottom is that you hit a point where you just can't go another way. You got to get better. Something has to change. Rock bottoms are not pleasant.
Sure.
They're really, really not pleasant, and they're not what you planned, and it's not how you want to do it. But the rock bottom doesn't come by itself. The way a rock bottom works is throughout your existence as an addict, things happen that say, hey, warning, don't go further. Oh, wow, your wife divorced you. You're this. You're like, hey, stop. And it doesn't work. And then eventually you ignore enough of those warnings, and there's a real problem. Something's going to happen that's so drastic, so crazy. You might end up in the hospital with a million things attached to you, and you lost part of your hearing, and whatever it is that made you hit that rock bottom, it's always going to be something you don't like. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to make you change. What I feel about the Jewish community is that there's a real problem. This whole get refusal thing is a real problem. And we've had many people standing up and going, hey, there's a problem. And this guy says, hey, there's a problem. And those guys got arrested because they dealt with the law situation and because they were beating them up to get the gets. Hey, there's a problem. And everybody's just ignoring. And Basins are not making the changes they need to make. And no one's making the changes. And then along comes the rock bottom of the Jewish community. It's not going to be pleasant. But she's saying change has to happen, and it's not going to look pretty, and it's not going to be nice, and it's going to break some of your halachas, and it's going to go against all your masaras, and it's going to look crazy, and you're going to go nuts and start seething at your mouth. I've had conversations with Label about this. Like, he's so mad, but that's what a rock bottom feels like.
Nice.
A rock bottom does not feel pleasant. It's doing all the things, but to me, if you want the rock bottom to really be effective, you say, okay, listen, I don't love what she's doing. I don't love how she's saying it. I don't like the inappropriateness and all that stuff she's doing. But this came about because we're ignoring a lot of lessons. And we got to maybe now a little tune in. Forget about what she's saying, but listen to the message that a community that produces people that are angry enough to act that way, something's wrong, let's do something about it. Don't ignore it. Don't push it under the rug because people are going to follow her. They're going to follow her, and eventually people are going to be so fed up by the Jewish community, they're going to leave. So this is a very important topic. I'll give you a little rant, but I'm saying that's how I see it. So I'm listening to this person, and I'm like, what could I learn from this person who's sitting in front of me and saying something? What could I learn about the community? What do we need to do to change? And everybody else is just, why don't you get into a yelling match? And I don't want to get into a yelling match. I don't know what that brought up. What I'm saying is the curiosity thing is that I think every person I sat down with at a podcast, I'm like, what could I learn from this? Where could I get, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's clearly obviously the most mature view of, the situation. Just go back to Flabbish Girl for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your view on the whole situation?
No, so I'm not the most well-educated on her particularly, but I just want to say, like, I think that is obviously the most positive way of looking at it. The question is, why is she so hated? Most likely because she doesn't overall have a positive influence on the community. I think I agree what you're saying. Obviously, there's a core issue there, and she is doing something about it. But I think what gets people mad is the people that aren't with her, that are so against her. They just feel that she's bringing like a negative hashpa on the entire community.
She is.
So, right. So I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. What I'm saying is that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is there are so many people, there are organizations that are literally motivated to take people away from Judaism.
Right.
That should be a wake-up call to us. Not, let's get angry at that person. There was a point in history, I don't talk history enough on my pod, but there was a point in history where I think 90% of Germany went from frum to reform in 50 years. Mm. What I'm saying is that we're doing all right now, but don't ignore the warning signs that are saying time to shift, time to figure out what the people are upset about, what is happening. I'm not saying break halacha, but I am saying understand that there are a lot of angry people. The fact that she has the amount of followers she has, it's not all hate followers. She has plenty of hate followers, believe me, but she has plenty of people that are so angry with her, and they want at the community. And these are the mothers of our next generation. Mainly it's women. When the Orthodox women start being as angry as Flappish Girl is sometimes, we're in trouble. We always depended on the women to carry on the Masorah. We always did. It's discussed everywhere. Now you got the women angry, like, hey, wake up.
So what do you think the solution is? Not to the get problem, but to the problem of people are angry at so many different things. How do we move past the anger and look at the core problem objectively?
I mean, in this particular issue, I can answer. But the first thing is, if there's enough people angry, listen. It's like this whole Trump thing that he came into office. It's because we're all angry. Everybody's angry. Nobody loves Trump as a person. It's not like he's like a lovely person. He's the rock bottom of the world. Like, he's like, hello, everything is corrupt and crazy, and I'm angry at everything, and I can yell whatever I want, and I can do whatever I want to anybody I want, and we go along with it because we're all angry. We're all with him in anger. So the first thing to do is don't ignore the anger. You can't keep saying the biggest issue is the trans issue, and no one cares about the stupid trans issue. You know what I'm saying? It's like nobody cares anymore. So, and matter of fact, we're angry that we're separating boys and girls. The whole country. So everybody just yelling and screaming. If you want to know, people who are angry are like, hey, there's something to look at here. If you want to hear Lahavdil, if the angry people make all the changes, Lahavdil, the whole entire Germany was angry, and that's why Hitler was able to take over. So if everybody listened to their anger instead of making them more angry, maybe we never would have had Hitler. You know what I'm saying? It's the idea is if a population of people are angry, first listen. So that's number one. Number one, listen. Number two, go out and search and find out if there's anything to do that is not against the Torah in order to help these issues. Meaning, do we start an organization? There are organizations for everything. Where's the organization for agunas? If they're saying there's a problem, where's the organization for male agunas? I don't know what to call a male aguna, but they have an issue on the male side too. They're having a real problem with women abusing them and not accepting gets. There is a thing. Where's the organizations? We're dealing with everything. I have an organization that works with addiction. We have organizations for people having children. The idea is if ever enough people are angry, go figure out how we can help. And I'm not saying change Masora, change this, but I will tell you that there's almost nothing in Judaism that a rabbi who cares enough and knows enough can't figure out a way to make it work within the Torah span. So to me, instead of just getting angry back, look to see if there's any legitimacy and then go see if you can fix it. So that's,
Wow.
You're in interviewing mood. You're making me talk. What I'm saying is that's what I'm saying. So I like to hear someone who's angry.
Let's have a conversation. Don't be angry. No, you can be angry, but talk it out. Don't just talk. Don't just talk to talk.
I will tell you, I am amazed at how many people are angry about the Flatbush girl situation. Because I'm not looking to have controversy on my podcast, but people are so furious about it. But I think to me it's like a beautiful lesson. That's what I see. I see a beautiful lesson. And maybe I'm not bothered as much by the things other people are bothered by. I should up my bother. I don't know.
I hear.
But so me having these conversations with people is wonderful. But your conversations actually, so let's get back to you for a second because I'll get off this topic.
For sure.
That was cool. I really liked explaining the
Flatbush girl situation. I love that
situation.
We're gonna have a lot of hate comments, which it's gonna be good.
I will tell you. Let me tell you a story. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we should just make this both story of our podcads.
Yeah. No. By the way, let's post it on both.
This is on both.
Let's post this on both.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right. So I went a long time ago. I don't know if I ever shared this story, but a long time ago, it was an organization that opened. I don't really want to give them the name, but it was an organization that opened, and I was thinking about it because I told you about it. That opened that it was an organization that opened that was like trying to help people be off the derech.
Be off the derech.
Yeah. Now, it didn't open in that sense. Like their claim was really that people are going off the derech and we have to help them, which I get. Like help them get into college.
Sure.
But what I found was there was a real agenda, and they were like really trying to make people not be religious, and it still exists. It's a big organization. At that time, they were doing a lot of the same work I was doing in our place. We were trying to help people who were struggling and figure it out. My biggest issue was most of these people really, religion and just on a therapeutic level is so important in their lives to be connected to their communities, this and that, to have an agenda to move people away
from everything.
Really, like some people maybe have to go off the derech, but it's really hard to go off the derech. There's a lot of stuff that happens. So even if like you had some version of religion in your life, it's going to help you. So even on a therapeutic level, I was really disturbed by it. And so I wrote this whole write-up of like a, 30-page write-up on like this idea to kind of challenge that organization. Whatever, I'm not going to go through the whole thing it was. But we went to this rabbi, Chaim Cohn. Rabbi Chaim Cohn, I think, is a Ger rabbi. Ger. I know you say Ger.
Ger, I think.
Ger Rebbe. He's not the Ger Rebbe, but he's a Ger Ruv. And he said, I went to him, and I told him the whole story. I was there with a bunch of Askanim. Some of them are big names. I don't really.
Why do you feel so personally like that you needed to take like action by yourself?
No, I did it with people.
Right.
It was personal to me in the sense that I was dealing with a lot of those same people, and I felt that having to rip someone away. Again, my big thing is community. If you know anything about me, to rip someone away from their community, it's got to be the absolute last case scenario. Like, and if you have it, you better have another community that's just as strong on the other side, because people will suffer and they'll be alone and they'll isolate. And so some of my people were going through it, and I felt very disturbed. So that's how I got kind of like, I love the people I work with.
You got pissed off.
I maybe pissed off. Okay. It's hard to get me pissed off, but yeah, I felt a call to action.
Right.
Anyway, it's a little embarrassing because then the story, I didn't do it.
You didn't send the email?
I didn't do the actual program, so that's the embarrassing part. But the point of the story is this: we went to this Rav, and he was an amazing person. And we sat, and I shared the whole idea, and there was all these different Askanim there. Some of them have big names, but I'm not. And I went through the whole thing, and some of it was like borderline, not so from. First of all, it was co-ed. Second of all, it was like programming together. There was a lot of stuff going on that it was a little risque on the level. Questionable, but like the regular Elam wouldn't love it, kind of. So, but I felt that's how it should be done. And then at the end, I finished, and then we ask, like, what is the rough thing? And there's a silence in the room. It's like silent. And then he goes, he's like a big guy, 6 foot something. Big, Garrett guys, they're all very big. He slams the table. I don't have a table here. He slams the table. Usher Daraisa.
Done.
Do it.
Nice.
And we were like,
what the flip
just happened? So literally the room was like, and then he said, and then like we're all just sitting there like waiting. There's got to be like a continuation. And we're sitting in a study filled with Svarim, top to bottom, all around. I mean, very learned man. And he points to these Svarim. He says, "You see this entire room?" He said, "This entire room is Asa Daraisa. Besides for those 5 books right there." We were not allowed to write down Torah Shabbat Peh. It's a Daraisa not to write down Torah Shabbat Peh. But we hit a point where the Rabbanim knew that we were going to lose it all if we didn't write it. So they chose to go against the Torah to write down Torah Shabbat Peh so that we could hold on to it. And it was seeing something greater than the problem.
Right.
And he said, if you're seeing this issue happen, and we're losing Jews from the community, and this is becoming a movement, then you have to do it.
Wow.
I will tell you.
You went to the right route.
Is that wild?
That's unbelievable.
First of all, it freaked me out like crazy. But one of the most beautiful things. Then he said something else, and it was so quick. I'm just going to tell you the last thing. So then the question was, well, how do we get people who are like regular from people not to show up? Meaning, we're doing all this risque stuff, and then it'll become cool, and then regular
people are joining in.
Our people are gonna join in. So it was a cafe type of idea, which was interesting. It was like a coffee shop where they serve food and drinks and stuff like that. That was part of it. And he said immediately, like so quick, I was like, wow. He said, make it kosher. Do not give it hashgacha. So anybody who would be interested in kosher, but anybody who needs a hashgacha
filtering
to go
out those
eat
people
somewhere,
you don't want to go. Nice.
They're not going to show up.
Nice.
But it was like an immediate question. Anyway, the point I'm saying is that story is wild, and I'm not sure he wanted me to share it. I have no idea, and I even used his name, but I thought it was one of the most amazing things I ever heard. But what this sensitivity of this man who understood that there is such a bigger picture, and if there's a real issue, we figure out solutions to deal with it. And it's not that we have to break the Torah everybody's yelling about it. And the truth is, I don't know how to get into the details of Siruv and the get and before and the prenup. And I don't know any of this stuff. I know none of it. I've never looked into it, no interest in it. I thank God have a beautiful marriage. I have no interest in divorce. It's not my thing, right? But everybody's yelling about the details and forgetting about the freaking big picture.
Exactly.
That's kind of is that a wild story?
That's insane. And this ties back into the whole Flatbush thing, why you felt some level of, I guess, impressed from what she's doing.
Yeah. I want to have conversations with everybody that's pissing everybody off.
Nice.
Because I really want to hear what's happening.
I love it. That's so cool.
Well, we'll see.
That's really cool.
But also regular conversations. So, okay, so you're having conversations with
people.
You're a good
that I'm
interviewer
interested
because
in.
I'm just sitting here talking.
Yeah, no, first of all,
you're the interviewer and I'm the yapper.
Wow.
But you're interviewing people, and a lot of it's about therapy.
So that's the beginning, yeah.
Did that change? Because
no, so yeah, it happened to be that was like what was accessible to us at the time, and it happens to be they were fantastic podcasts in my opinion. I think they were super, super down to earth and like practical to the sense where we could all hear it, everybody could listen, even if you've never heard of IFS before, you could still listen to the IFS therapy podcast.
Right.
So it's definitely something that my partner and I are interested in. Mental health. As well as a connection has become super, super a big conversation in a lot of the podcasts. We spoke with Rabbi Yaakov Klein a lot about that. We spoke with even Rav Gav, which is not necessarily that kind of crowd. He's much more musser, much more like hype and energy, not as like in that veld. But yeah, there's a lot of selfish reasons why I want to do the podcast. I think me meeting these guys one-on-one, having an hour plus with them is like so fulfilling in my sense. Like, forget about the audience for a second. I just love meeting these connections. When else would I call the biggest rebellion, the biggest businessman, the biggest therapist, and you'd be like, hey, can we sit down for an hour, like scot-free, you know? So I think it's like it opens a lot of doors. At the same time, I think one of the main reasons why we decide, look, we have to publish this is because for me personally, I connected to podcasts much more than a book or YouTube video, whatever. Like there's some sort of beauty to podcasting that I can't even describe.
Yeah, we were talking about it.
Yeah,
before.
we're talking about it before.
I want to hear your theory. Why podcast today?
I think.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get back.
Yeah, I think it has a lot has to do with the unfilteredness. So we're gonna bring Joe Rogan for example. It's completely uncut. There's a TV show and there's Joe Rogan. One is completely edited, completely scripted, everything in between. And it could have the same message, but there's a certain beauty to Joe Rogan's podcast that there's literally nothing there. It's just a conversation. So I think the raw, simple authenticity is super, super important. It's super,
wow. Okay. So I'm thinking that you're saying like everything else seems manufactured, like we're being lied to, and this is like it's authentic.
Exactly.
There's
it's
a
kind of going
conversation.
at the box.
Nobody cut anything. I've probably cut out one or two things since the beginning of my podcast.
Nice.
The only time I'll ever cut out, never myself. I only cut out if someone says, I'm embarrassed about this thing.
Right.
I'll cut out. So it's like maybe two things. I always ask people, like, you embarrassed? I could cut that out, whatever. But so you're saying it's just the idea of like, maybe that's like a kind of an argument against news. Like news has become like, they're just feeding you what they want to and you're being lied to. And here you have 3 hours of a guy talking to them, getting the real stuff.
At the same time, I don't know how other people run their podcasts, but for me personally, we don't come with an agenda. Like even when it comes to like these, like Rav God, let's say, for us, that was a big name. And like we didn't come in with notes. We didn't come in with anything. We did research on him just to, get an idea. But it was completely free flowing. And so I think there's a beauty to that everybody appreciates, even if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You could hear it in the conversation.
Do you ever get like upset in the conversations you've had? Like, have you
Not
gotten
yet.
riled up? Not
yet.
Are you still like fanboying? I've had a couple of fanboy podcasts. I just had A.B. Rottenberg.
Oh,
and
nice.
I basically couldn't talk the whole time because
It's very interesting because
he's such a hero of mine.
a lot of the people I interviewed, I haven't heard of them for till 3 months ago.
Right.
It's like it wasn't really my belt. It was much more Aryeh's because he grew up in that world much more. His father was is a big rabbi on Torah Anytime in Miami. So he knows all these Rebbeim in that Eretz Yisrael area, or ETL Goldwich, the Ish Rebbeim.
Right.
But being introduced to that was very, very powerful, and I learned so much.
You're learning a lot from these guys.
Tons.
I mean, one of the IFS ones I saw, you had like a little cynicism, like, does therapy really work? It was like,
It was probably
I don't know if you
tell?
said that or you said something like that. You're like,
What was the question?
I don't remember the question. It was a while ago.
Oh,
I watched it, but you were like, yeah, but like, does this really work?
I think the question was going to therapy once a week. Is that so effective? Meaning, because when I go to therapy once a week and it's for an hour out of the how many hours in a week?
Right. Oh, right. You said 50,000 hours.
Yeah, 50,000 hours, whatever the number is.
You said some number.
I should come prepared. Yeah, whatever the number is, 50,000 hours in a week, and you're there for 1 hour. Like, how effective is it?
Jamie looked that up. How many hours?
Oh, nice.
How many hours, Jamie?
Approximately 72. Yeah, but
we all need a Jamie.
What do you hear? What do you?
No, Jamie's from
Joe Rogan, of course.
So we all need a Jamie.
We all need a Jamie.
Wait, so you said the question was that 1 hour a week, and then all of a sudden you're going out there. And did you like his answer? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Answer? Such a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a very long time ago.
I'm always.
I want to hear what Sonny has to say.
You want to think my answer?
Yes.
Oh, you're asking the question again?
Yeah. You seemed interested. Go. Let's go.
I was interested about how you view all this therapy stuff, and if it's changed. That was really what I was interested in.
I became much more open-minded.
So I am deeply in the belief that really pisses people off that therapy is for healthy people. So there you go.
Weiter.
Well, that's not enough. You don't get that?
No, give me more.
I'm just kidding. I'll go on. It's like saying Usher that rice and then stop it.
Usher Deraisa.
Usher Deraisa. What? You have questions? No. So
Therapies for healthy people. What the flip does that mean?
what does that mean? What I have found, and this is one of the reasons I've dropped out of doing private practice, and I do all
the community work.
the community work, is that what I found is that therapy with a guy who's homeless on the street. He's homeless. He's got nothing going for him. He's got no job. He's got no structure of a life and no people around him and nothing. He could go to the best therapy in the world, and then he walks out of that session.
Shoots up.
Maybe he has an hour of feeling good, but that's it.
Yeah.
And then he's back, and everybody agrees to that. So what I have found, and this has been true about my life as well as other people's lives, is that we have to start at much more of a rudimentary issue before we get to the deeper issue. Therapy is deep. It's work. There's stuff in there that you need to really juice around and get out. And not every therapy is for every person. So there has to be like an exploratory period. Do I like IFS? Do I like EMDR? Do I like, I mean, all the different, and there's a new approach every single 17 minutes. So, and every single one is the right approach and all the rest are wrong. That's cynical.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was saying is that, so the therapy, you go, if I take someone who's literally in the middle of chaos and he's got nothing going on in his life and his relationships are falling apart and his job is falling apart and everything is falling apart. And I'm talking about people with addiction also. It's like everything is bad. And then we send them into a therapist's office and the guy's like, okay, let's dig into your life. Dig into my life. I don't even have a life. I have no structure. I have no vessel to hold this difficult work. So in my business, I call 3 levels of work that we have with the addiction people. And the first level is building that community and that structure, which is the vessel.
This is all before you do the inner work.
Yeah. So you could have a therapist, but early recovery therapy to me is just another person who holds you. And you're not really sure. In my opinion, a good therapist, if someone's in early recovery, or another word for that, in total chaos, does not try to go deep. Doesn't try to do the deep trauma work. Even if they're really good at getting into deep trauma work, they should hold off. And they should do the holding where someone is now strong enough to deal with the trauma of trauma therapy. Going into trauma therapy is traumatic. We're bringing up some real scary stuff. We're dealing with we're looking at things that our defense mechanisms have said, look away from that for a really long time. And defense mechanisms are not stupid. So they're like, look away. And you're like, no, I'm looking at it. I want to look directly at it. You have to be incredibly strong. So that's where the line is. Therapies for healthy people. Build the structure of a life around you, and then you could go deeper therapy. In the beginning, you could use that therapy as a holding hand. And if it's a really good therapist, in my opinion, they'll start with that, building that incredible connection between you and the therapist, and then move on to the heavier stuff. Don't start right there.
Sure. But that doesn't really answer the hour a week question.
So the hour, though, that's what I'm saying is that if you are living a good week, I guess that's how you answer the question. If you are living a good week, your week is solid, that hour a week will give you the strength to have that, to make that week so much better. If that's all you got, it's a waste. Yes. It's a waste of time.
Nice.
And so it will enhance. And the way I've seen this in my own life. I've gone to therapy at different points in my life, and the healthier I am as a human being, and the more structure I have in my life, and the more like connections and community I have in my life, the more powerful therapy is.
Nice.
The further I could dive in, because I'm not so scared, because I know I'm going to come home. My wife is there, my kids are there, my brothers and sisters are there, my parents are there. I know that I have a community. I could go to shul. I could, I have people. So I'm not afraid to do that work. So that's the answer. So that's my answer is that, if you're going to therapy once a week and your rest of your life is a total wreck, it's like taking a tissue to wipe an entire pile of duty. Yeah. It's not going to work. Yeah.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm.
That's a nicer one. I was visualizing what I was saying as I said.
Yeah. Now it's coming up for me is Yehuda Maitel answered the question that completely different answer than yours. Yeah. But he was saying, which I completely agree with.
Which one's better? I'm just kidding.
They're completely different. Yeah, there's really no correlations. But what he was saying is that he's obviously pushing IFS, but IFS, the reason why it works so well in that hour-week time frame compared to, let's say, EMDR or whatever other modalities you're practicing, is because it's much more throughout the week. You're working with it on a day-to-day basis. Every scenario you're going through, you're focusing on each part of you that's speaking. So let's say you're davening in shul and you're super like relaxed or whatever. You're tapping into yourself right now. Then when you're at work and you're hustling and you're super stressed out, tapping into this and that. So I think
I happen to agree with that, but I do think that most therapy modalities also say that. Meaning, like, if I do psychodynamic, then I know as I'm sitting there and my back starts to hurt and I'm sitting in shul, I should look at my mother used to treat me this way, and that's
IFS has such a profound language that gave everybody the ability to identify those things on a super simplistic level.
Right.
It's like 5 different things. You have the self, you have the defenders, and the
I think it's true. I really think it's true. And IFS for myself has actually been one of my favorite therapies to go to in myself and to use as a therapy modality with clients. Again, I still believe that you're giving skills and you're giving things that we could use during the week. And I think technically IFS is a type of therapy that you don't need a therapist for. And that's the important piece he's saying. Yeah. And that, like, it is one of those therapies that goes, like, it's almost like the therapist is training you to do self-therapy, which is very cool. And it's probably much more effective. But again, I would stick to like, still, if you're a wreck, you don't have the ability to do that. One of the things I got from IFS that was super cool for myself was that at a certain point, and I can still kind of do it, I feel all the emotions at once. And I know they're all happening at once. So that has been, like, I used to be able to maybe hold 1 or 2 emotions at a time. And now I feel like I could do like 30, 40.
Whoa.
Which is wild. And IFS has kind of secretly like a meditative idea to it, where you're, like, in meditation, you understand that there's a lot of stuff happening, but it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
So IFS is, the inner self. It's a very powerful thing that you're not any of these parts. You're not even the sum of all the parts. Those are just parts. You are pure and untouchable.
Right.
They all talk about that.
Which is why the
Orthodox Jews love it.
They love it.
They love it. It's the soul. Yeah.
But going back to what you said before, I'm just curious. It kind of sounds like if you have nothing going for you, you have no community, you have no sense of self, and you're not doing anything with your life, then you're doomed. Don't even go into therapy. Where do you start?
Yep.
Hard stop.
Now I'm gonna go with yep. I want to tell you, this is what keeps me up at night. That question you just asked is what keeps me up at night. Okay, so
but rock
you're
bottom.
Telling me, but rock bottom. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
25 years old. I have lost all sense of community. My whole community when I grew up was I had one single mom who raised me, and I'm not that close to her right now. Like, take this scenario like this. My siblings have all moved out and moved on, and they're in different areas. And then I'm 25 years old, and I'm in a basement. And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing drugs because I'm not an idiot. I'm not doing necessarily bad things. Yeah, I'm sitting on the internet all day. Okay. Now, and I believe that is a lot of our population. Like, it's a lot more than people think. They're the hidden population. And then they listen to my pod and they say, okay, what you need is community. Now what do they do? What do?
Walk to the shul.
Meeting.
Yeah.
You walk to a shul. You walk in. What exactly do you do to tap into community? The problem is that I'm saying something that I think is real. I think that what I'm saying is the reason we're having a mental health crisis in the first place. I think that everybody always had mental health issues for a beginning of time. It's just that we had a community, so we lasted through it. It wasn't that people did not have OCD or didn't have bipolar or didn't have stuff. They had it. They all had it. But you had people holding you in every direction. And I'm not talking about it in a mushy, yummy way. I love it. It just, we need you. You're in our shtetl.
Didn't feel like you're going through everything together yourself.
You had to do it. And this is happening in third world countries today.
Yeah.
Today, you have communities where people, that guy's really struggling with depression, but so what? We're here for him, and that's what we do, because there's only 100 of us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, the question is the answer to why we have a mental health crisis right now, in my opinion. That's what I'm saying. So that's why it keeps me up, because I'm literally putting all my solutions are putting a Band-Aid on a very, very big wound. Like, even kills me. I'm like, I built this beautiful, awesome community for these addicts and all this stuff. And I'm like, what have I touched? 200 people, 300 people. Okay. We're talking about 8 billion people. Every year, like six of them are struggling because the communities have all broken down and everybody's struggling. I don't know, 6 billion people, but a lot. Even the Jewish community, there's millions of people that are literally struggling.
Yeah.
You have Achieve is a program that has these 5,000 clients a year, a therapy program in the Frum community. Are you kidding me? What is happening? You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What is happening? Here's the question. And what I'm saying is that the base has to be taken care of, and the base isn't being taken care of. That's what's going on. That's what I'm fighting against. So when I think about my program and I say, oh, this is the thing, I need it to spread to so many people that it happens. And it is. I go to Fishers. You visited Fishers in your
I'm in
travels?
Fishers.
You're in Fishers now?
Yeah, for yeshiva.
Right? So do you see the Rabbi Fisher one?
Of course.
All right, cool.
Of course.
Is that good?
It was unbelievable.
Okay, awesome.
Top notch podcast. Everybody has to listen to that one.
It's top notch.
Insane.
But there are people. Did you go to Orr at some point?
Yeah, I was in Or as
You were in
well.
Orr. I remember you in Orr. I feel like I remember you with an Orr keeper.
Very true.
At some point. Scott Friedman's doing this.
Yeah.
Rabbi Kalish is doing this. Rabbi Fisher's doing this. When I was younger, you had Neve and Kesher and Netzach. You had all these programs. I will say that some of these guys are doing it like a real community. Like Fisher's a community. Even if you leave, it still feels like a community. You have the same thing with Waterbury and there's all these other programs.
Yeah.
And people are having issues. Oh, they're letting them do. My issue, why isn't every school doing that? Not everybody can use drugs.
Right.
But why isn't that sense of community in every single school out there? Why don't they look at Rabbi Kalish and go, wait a minute. He literally is taking guys who are struggling from the worst places, and with not that much work, they're doing better. Yeah, you're saying there are people that are really struggling. Maybe they don't get to. You're talking about 80% that I could tell of guys going to Waterbury are just changing into like enjoying their lives and wanting to do good with their life. And what did he do? He tells you you're amazing. He tells you you're part of a community. We got your back. Bullying is like the last thing you could imagine in school. You're loved. It's family. You sit together. You sing together. What is he doing? Then you go to Fish. It's the same thing. So what I'm saying is, like, instead of seeing, I've had people yell at me about Kesher. Do Flatbush Girl, not Kesher, about Waterbury. What the heck? You're letting him do drugs and this enabling and all that stuff, right? And I'm thinking, well, you know what? Rabbi Kalish is the rock bottom of our community a little bit.
Nice.
A little bit. He's like, hey, enough is enough. We got to do it. And you don't like that he's allowing guys to do things you don't like?
Don't you think there's a upwards trend in Waterbury, Fishers, or Israel, that kind of those institutions blowing up? Meaning Rabbi Kalish has thousands of listeners, right? Fisher also.
Yeah.
Sonny Perlman. Like, you guys are making, like, it's so much, this movement is way, 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 way more spread out than it was 3-4 years ago. Rabbi Kalish came to Eretz Yisrael and he spoke at like 40 yeshivas, half of them being like the most mainstream places of all time. 3 years ago, nobody is inviting Rabbi Kalish to speak at the yeshiva.
Right.
TC's not inviting Rabbi Kalish to come speak to their guys,
Now they all do.
Yeah. So I think there's really positive changes happening in that regard.
It's a movement.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to be part of it. I'm excited to be part of it. And it's cool, like, listening to a lot of the conversations. It's interesting. Nobody really disagrees with the premise of all these places.
Of course.
They don't disagree. They think you're right. Kindness. We need to hold them and they need to feel love and community. But then if you actually try to do it, it's brutal. It's really brutal. I'm also in the addiction community where the recovery community is very much into tough love. They're changing, but they're very much into tough love.
What's an example of that?
No, so it's like, you come into a program and you let's say even a sober living, it's like you have your cell phone? Do you have your people, places, and things? Are you going there? Are you walking there? Are you came in late? You're losing dinner. You're this, that. You're like,
wow.
You walk it. We lock the doors at 11. If you don't walk in at 11, you don't get. Like these are. It's very, very, very structured, and all that is like very intense love. And if you don't make it, you fall off.
Do you guys feel loved in that environment?
So it could happen. It could happen because it's still a sense of camaraderie in the community. But you got to play by the rules. So what I found, and this is a total patronizing thing to say, is that a lot of the programs that have had successes, which a lot of programs don't have too many successes. Rehab, a 20% success rate is great, which is a disaster. But why do they have a 20% success rate? A lot of these places stumbled upon the idea of community by accident. But
we're looking at 20% success rate. That's nothing.
I know. There are the better programs. I'm saying there are better programs that do even higher. Well, if you go into the sober living space, it's a fascinating thing. Is that people think, I finished rehab, I don't need to go to sober living. The studies actually show that like 57%, if someone goes to a year of sober living, it goes up to about 57% success rate. It's like a very big jump from the 20%. So it is about time and being part of a community and integrating back into the world. This is all part of the old topic where integration is the most important thing. You're like 1 hour a week. Then what do? I integrate it into my life. I have a life and I do that. I take that 1 hour a week of therapy and I put it into my life.
Nice.
So the idea is that you need the community to be integrating it back into and the strength and all that. So it helps even if you're being tough, you're going to have somewhat of a success because you're going to build a community. I don't think you necessarily need the tough. There are certain people that probably need a little more tougher programs just to hold them, not really to fix them, but to you need to be here at this time. Otherwise they'll drift off. So there are.
So is that what the sober living idea is? It's more of like a holding space and not like a fixing.
It's a transitional living.
Right.
So it's going from you're going from rehab and then you're transitioning over to life. So it's like halfway house, they used to call it, but everybody stopped calling it halfway house because it sounds like.
Yeah. Let's keep it simple.
No, it sounds low class. The halfway house got a bad rap because it was like all these people coming out of prison and coming out of this, and you go to a halfway house and there's tons of drugs being used there. And so when they wanted to make them nicer, they called them sober livings. Now they call them transitional livings. Whenever you change the words of something, a lot of times it's not the word that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's the thing that's the problem.
Sure. We're just adapting to the problem.
We just make a nicer word and think that that's good enough.
Right.
I don't think the people who are whatever. It's a whole other topic. But okay, so out of all the topics you're talking about on these podcasts, which ones are you liking the most?
There's a lot of Hasidus talk.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yaakov Klein. Oh my gosh. Judah Michelle.
Yaakov Klein is
Story of Our Lives, Lost Princess. He wrote that book.
Okay.
A lot of our Nachman stuff. But at the same time, a lot of that conversation and a lot of that what resonates with me is just the open-mindedness of taking away the rigidity of the typical mainstream Judaism system. So that's I think a lot of the conversation we have. But yeah, it's so enjoyable. It's so selfish why I do the podcast. I just love doing it.
Did you do a lot of them in America or you just did it?
So we haven't done them yet, no. So hopefully after Pesach, we're going to be shooting a bunch here. The Miami trip in America.
I'm dying to hear how you see the difference in people.
Oh my God. I'm so ready. I'm so down.
No, because all the people you talk about, they're all lights.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. So Eretz Yisrael to America is going to be very different. But it's going to be interesting. Very interesting.
It's going to be interesting. So you do the Hasidus, you're doing the therapy, you're doing nobody controversial. You're not really getting people that piss anybody off.
Yeah. I'm very open to it. That's what I'm saying. There's not there's no line that we're not willing to cross. It's just the fact that we're kind of based on topics around the conversation around the topics we want to discuss. These are things we're curious about specifically that we want to improve on. Why not interview people that we want to hear?
Right.
But we're kind of have ourselves in mind over having the audience in mind.
So where do you want this to go? What's your dream? You have a dream, or you haven't thought of it?
So I know I love doing it. I want to do it full time. Obviously you need to make money off it. You know, that's just how it is. If I'm dumping thousands of dollars a week,
That's what
to have
I
a whole
do.
team.
It's not a good.
Exactly. Yeah.
I make no money.
It only worked for so long.
You'd be surprised.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Listen, Yaakov Langer, Nachi Gordon, they're doing okay.
I hope so.
I hope so. Yeah. But I would love to do this long term. I like to disassociate myself from the numbers. Like,
What does that mean?
meaning when I ask myself what's the dream, when I hear that question, it goes straight to numbers. Okay, I want to have 100,000 followers, but I think that's so not what it's about.
Well, it's nice to have numbers, but I think that's not the question.
For sure.
No, I'm saying the question is,
Right.
what is the plan? No, the truth is the plan could be, I'd like to make a lot of money and be famous.
Right.
That could be the plan. I don't know if that's the plan.
Yeah.
Or that could be an outcome of the plan. Some of the best businesses are built on, I love this idea, I want to do this idea, and then the money comes way later.
Exactly.
So there is money in podcasting, although I don't know if there's any money in Jewish podcasting.
Right.
Besides for like 2 or 3 podcasts out there. I'm curious if anybody else is making any money off it. Although I will tell you, I monetized YouTube in the last month. And I think I made like $100.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Chaim, yeah, let's go for dinner.
That was really exciting.
That's very exciting.
That's
Wow.
the first money I made on this podcast.
It's unbelievable.
And I advertised my wife's wig business.
Did she pay you?
She doesn't have a wig business. She has a really, really awesome, innovative company. That's the end. Boom.
Plug
Wig
up the
Guru.
graphic.
That's
But
the
back-
wig guru.
Back to the question.
Does she pay me? I don't know. I think I can get my wife to pay me. I don't think so.
Might have to after this. There's gonna be a lot of viewers.
There are a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
She gets a freebie. Everybody else has to pay.
Right. Has anybody reached out for sponsorships?
Yeah. I really didn't
decline?
get started yet.
You're not interested?
No, I am interested. I just when they reached out, I wasn't really doing it yet. But I didn't call back yet.
Okay. It'll be in the process.
It's very fascinating because this is such a side gig in my life.
Right.
To find 2 hours in my day, in my life, in my week is so crazy. But this is like a passion project, so it's fun. But what do you want to do to change the world? That's what I want to know. Like, what is
I
the
think that will
reason for
happen
this?
because I think there's a deficiency in connection with the guys of our age. I think we're definitely targeting our age audience. So between 17 to 25, let's say. Ari is 21, I'm 17, turning 18 in 2 weeks. I think there's a deficiency in connection. I think people just go through the conveyor belt and don't question anything. And there's so many people that we're reaching that I've got feedback from that's like, wow, that's a great conversation. And they genuinely internalize it. They meditate on it and they want more. And
What are the questions 17-year-olds are asking? What are they frustrated
I
about?
don't think they're frustrated about anything because they're not asking questions.
Oh, you think the generation today has no questions?
No, I think there are people that are, but as a whole, people are just going through the circle of life.
It's interesting.
Do you not agree?
I do agree. I work with you. No, the difference I've seen the last 20, a lot of years. It's almost 30 years at this point, working with teens. Before that, I was a teen. So 30 years of teens. The big difference I'm seeing in the community, the people I'm working with, is it went from anger to apathy. So it's like it was beautiful.
I love what you're saying. Yes.
You'd get so angry. It'd be like they'd come in, it'd be good conversations, and these rabbis suck. And
now it's like,
and now it's like, meh.
Exactly.
Like your religion's like,
I'm not connected. It's okay.
But it's interesting because when I have a conversation with a guy, I'll take an example, like a guy would like break Shabbos or flip a light on or something like the first time. Like, what was that like? Oh my God, the turmoil that went through their lives. Now, it was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Shit, Shabbos is it.
I love what you're saying.
Yeah, so I will say I agree with you because there's a very apathetic, like, I don't.
Completely complacent.
Yeah, it's like you got to tell them what they're supposed to care about.
But I think what becomes very refreshing is hearing these conversations that you're so not used to hearing. So like, let's say a guy in a very mainstream yeshiva that just heard an hour and a half podcast that we're talking about Hasidus, and we didn't bring up Gemara in the conversation once. It's like, whoa, so this is a huge rabbi. He's not talking about Gemara. He never brought it up. We're talking about these deep esoteric concepts that he's never heard of. Like, I think that's very, very refreshing, and it sparks something.
Right. So you're saying the difference, that's interesting, because last night my niece told me that her friends listen to my podcast. And her friends are like 15, 16 years old. I'm like, what are they getting from my podcast?
Right.
Like, these are adult conversations. Like, what exactly are they getting? I haven't gotten a real good answer yet, because, I mean, it's not my general population, but to think of a 15-year-old listening to this podcast and enjoying it, I don't know what they're getting at it. It's interesting. I worked with teenagers forever. I don't know if I would have listened to this at 15. I think I would have. I think it's because of your thing that you said, the authenticity. People are so tired of the BS. They're just like, they're listening and they're like, wait a minute, these are two Orthodox people having a conversation and it sounds normal. I don't know if it's bringing up questions or not, but I think they're tired of being like told stuff, and they want to hear conversations. I don't know, but what I do think is interesting about you being young is that when I'm sitting with someone and I'm asking questions, a lot of times it's not my question. I'm thinking, what is the listener wanting to ask Rabbi Fisher right now? Like, sometimes it's me. I'm really curious, but sometimes I'm like, I think that most people would want to know the answer to this question. So I'm like, you could be like speaking for the 17-year-olds or the 20-year-olds, or even the 15-year-olds maybe.
Sure. I think that's very important. I think you do it very well. Meaning, I'm sure there's a lot of conversations you have that you know the answers to. And these questions that are popping through your head, you know the answers to, but you're asking for the viewers, which I think people connect with for sure.
Although, it is kind of cool to find out what other people think about the answer. I mean, like, you ask the same question to two different therapists,
and you got
two radically different answers.
Exactly.
They're really different answers.
They're completely different. No shaykhs.
And it's not like they even argue with each other. They're just in different paths. Yeah. So I will say that I find it fascinating to ask a question that I am like positive that I know the answer to, and they give another answer.
Nice.
I had, did you finish the Gedalia Fenster?
I didn't finish it. Okay. I was in the middle of it. I was listening to it on the way here, by the way.
Yeah, so something he said there, I don't know if you got to or not, but something he said really like blew me away, because the masculine, feminine stuff that's going on in the world is a fascinating topic that I'm very excited about. It's also a topic that's scary to talk about, because their feelings get hurt, and there's a lot of discussion. Even like saying masculine and feminine could piss people off today. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, what about that documentary? What is a woman? It's like upsetting people. But what he was saying, and this I thought was wild, and I haven't never thought of it in this angle, he said, is that according to Kabbalah, the women, their challenge is that they are always trying to be men. Meaning they're getting too far into their masculine, and they have to learn how to get more feminine. And the men are trying to be more feminine and need to be pushed back into their masculine. And I literally thought it was he says that is the thing we have to fix. Meaning, and I see it in my own life, which it was very relieving to hear, because I'm like, I want someone to just take care of me. I want someone to hold me. I want to, I come home like, why is my wife not making me feel great right now? And all that stuff is feminine. Yeah. That's deeply in my feminine.
Right.
That I want someone. Where do I feel the most pride? When I'm taking care of everybody around me. I'm like, that's where I feel the most. But where I'm drawn to be taken care of. I want to be taken care of. Women want to take control of everything. They feel the best being held and being able to like hold and contain everybody. But they have a desire to control. That's what he was saying. And they're being pulled towards that. It doesn't make them feel good. When they get there, they hate it. They're like, where is the man that's going to hold this family? And I'm doing everything. And I have so many women that are so resentful. This guy doesn't do anything. What is he doing? I'm like, you kind of pushed him out of the way.
Nice.
By going in. So that was like something. I'm sitting here at a podcast asking a question, and I would have said it the exact opposite. I don't have the Kabbalistic understandings that he have, but I'm saying he just looked at the male, the masculine and feminine completely different than the way I looked at it. I thought it was like, this is why we have these conversations. That's
What
why
was your previous notion?
No, my previous notion is that we have a difficult time becoming our true us, and have this thing that we're being pulled into the other direction. He had a whole Kabbalistic explanation, but like we got to work on being a man, and they got to work on being a woman. But it was like that was just to make the best of ourselves, like just become the best.
Kind of sounds like what he was saying in different words.
It's different words, but those different words were all the difference. Meaning the fact that it is natural for a man to be going into his feminine. And that's where he has to pull himself back from. When you have a guy like Jordan Peterson teaching men how to be men, why are they slipping away from being men? Shouldn't we want to go to be a man naturally? But they're not. They're being told you could go into your feminine. And then the men are drifting into their feminine. And like you get these situations where you have like one or the other. Like let's say the man is like, she's so masculine, she's this, like, why are you acting so feminine? Stand up, be the masculine, and then she doesn't have to be it. But this is a much more empathetic way of saying it. That we're all drifting in the wrong direction, and our purpose is to get back to our real selves.
That's so cool.
It's not like you almost say, you know what the difference is? Okay, I'll get it a little better.
Let's go.
The difference is it feels like we're defective when we're going in the other direction. Right. And what he's saying is that's the pull. He's saying that it comes from the original, not explaining this right, but it comes from the original sin. Where Chava was heading in that direction was like, I don't know.
I'm trying to find the practical scenario where I'm like connecting to this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You want me to help you find it?
Help me. Give me. Let's go.
Let's go. No, what do you mean? The practical, probably the best way to find the practical way to understand this is every time you're feeling weak, you're not in your masculine.
Right.
So you're drifting into the direction of your masculine.
So what I'm trying to understand is that why do we not feel good when we're feeling in our feminine energy?
Because that's not our purpose.
So then
but we're being pulled away from our
So purpose. When I feel weak, and I feel insecure and not confident, I'm supposed to white knuckle it?
No, you have to figure out how to get back to your masculine. That doesn't mean white knuckle it. It means how to get back. It means to be a masculine man, it takes work. And it's work from every direction. Some of it's practical. Some of it's white knuckling, by the way. Everybody hates on white knuckling, but the fact is, every morning I wake up, it's white knuckling. I don't know how to say it another way. I never want to get out of bed. I have never been like so healthy that I'm like,
let's get out of bed. I'm so happy for the day.
Like the Cinderella singing, la, 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 I'm up. I have in my life, I don't care if I am doing, I'm pretty sure the day of my wedding, which is probably the most exciting day of my life, I was like, really? I gotta get up.
No way.
I don't know if this is true, but I'm pretty sure because I don't remember any other way of waking up.
Purposes.
What?
For example purposes.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't remember how I woke up on the day of my wedding.
But I definitely hear that.
I'm sure I woke up on time and everything, and I wake up on time every day. But the thing is, I never want to. Yeah. So do I have to get to a place where I'm so healthy that I just want to get up, or am I white knuckling?
Is that reality? And yeah, I hear that.
I think a lot of our life is white knuckling, but then we spend our life trying to heal ourselves. But it's getting a bad rap.
Yeah, I think one thing that stood out to me, I don't remember who said it in the podcast, but once you deeply understand why you're doing something, it becomes much easier to not white knuckle. You're kind of doing it for the real purpose. So let's say you want to get out of bed at 9 o'clock. Okay, that was a bad example. Let's say 6 o'clock. You want to get out of bed.
What's wrong with 9 o'clock? Don't get out at 9 o'clock. People.
No, because it wasn't extreme
Good
enough.
For them.
It wasn't extreme
Good
enough.
for them.
It wasn't extreme enough. I want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Why? I want to get out of bed because I want to be productive. I want to be able to have more time for connection. I want to be able to spend more time with my family. Hit the cold plunge. By the way, I did cold shower before I got here.
All right.
Plug myself. Yeah.
That's why you got all that energy.
But
all right, 6 o'clock.
You're getting up at 6 o'clock because you want to do all these things. You want to accomplish all these things. And once you're just doing that because someone told you like you have to do all these things, and you're like, okay, low key, that's true. Then you might do it once, you might do it the next time, but then like after the third day, you're done. You're like, I don't really care. You're doing it because other people tell you. You're doing it because it made sense, but like you didn't really connect with what the deep reason was. I think once you understand and figure out exactly why you're doing something, that task that is seemingly so difficult becomes much, much easier because it becomes so much more meaningful.
Yeah, so I agree and disagree.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. And because this is a line that's one of my pet peeves is this line. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Okay, nice.
I forgot who that was.
Yeah.
Maybe Mark Twain. I don't know. Anyway, it's garbage. Why am I saying it's garbage? Is because work is work, no matter what you do. I love the work I do, but every single day it's work. So I could motivate myself. Now, it is way better in life to know I'm getting up and I'm doing something I'm proud of. It is way better. And it may motivate me for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but ultimately it's a drag. Oh, shoot. I got to get up and make $1 million, or I got to get up and I got to sell another apartment complex. And, eventually, even if it's your dream, it's what you want to do, it's still going to, it's still going to be work, and you're still going to do it. But I agree you should love what you're doing, but it's still going to be work. I mean, that's something I feel bad about. I'm like, why don't I want to wake up? I love what I do.
Nice.
Why don't I want to wake up? Hold on one second.
And this break is sponsored by... We will come back in about 30 seconds.
Zazie. Okay, I'm back. That will not be cut. See?
The dog's back.
She's back. Hold on a second. Okay, Zazie, you want to come in? All right, we got a guest, folks.
Okay, let's go. What's up, buddy? What do you got to say to the camera? In the shot?
Still working.
Let's go.
All right. Now we have Zazie. Okay.
Welcome back.
Right. Now she wanted to come in.
All right, snap back in.
She's been heck no, that's not gonna cut at all. Everybody has to sit through that. Anyway, no, yeah. I love the idea, but I think a lot of our life is about like pushing ourselves to go to the next level, but also coming up with a real mission of why to make it easier. So I think, and that's interesting. This is very interesting because young people today, especially young men, I work with a lot of young men. They've been told that it's the message of the world is it is all right to not be a man.
What do you mean by that?
It is all right to fall into the feminine. It's all right. It's all right. And a lot of it is good because a lot of the stuff the mission of the feminist movement was like, guys, this is getting too intense. Everybody's got to be real, all man and all woman, and the women are getting treated bad. And that was the mission. But then what ended up happening is that everybody started blending it. So if you acted manly, it actually became toxic masculinity. Like, why are you acting manly? So the all masculinity, I saw on one of these podcasts, someone said, could you explain to me masculinity that's non-toxic?
Right.
And they couldn't because just being masculine is considered toxic. So you're telling men, not only are you allowed to go into your feminine, go into a place where you're not being a provider, not being a helper. This is where we feel the best. Men feel amazing giving. That is our structure of being. We feel great. And I'm talking about myself and all the people I've ever worked with. They just feel amazing. So we're told that feeling amazing to be a provider is not only, it's all right to not be that, it's also kind of bad to be that. Like,
which is what the feminist movement was portraying.
Well, no, I don't think it was their goal. They were hoping that the men would be strong and the women would be strong. But then it came to a point where it's like men are the bad guy, women are the good guy, and women are being oppressed. And honestly, there was some truth to that. And therefore, it had to be fixed. Again, rock bottom of the world. Women were saying, stop treating us bad. And the men were going, no, until the women ruined it all and fixed everything themselves. I don't know, they ruined it all, but they went ahead and did that, which is fine. I'm all for that type of chaotic change. I'm all for it, but there's always unintentional consequences afterwards.
Exactly.
So the unintentional consequences now, when I'm looking at the young people, Like you're saying this story, dude, I made a car cleaning business and I made a podcast and and you said the statement, I almost wanted to laugh at me. Like I made thousands of mistakes. I'm like, you haven't even lived 1,000 minutes. What are you talking about? I'm doing the bad calculations again. But what I'm saying is like, it is so rare to hear a man at 17 years old get up and say, I want to conquer. I want to conquer. Why is that rare? That is how we feel great.
Nice.
To tell a guy, one of the reasons I love to work with teenagers all the years is because it is the most depressing time because you are a useless adult. You're like, you have all the ability to be an adult and have a family, and your body's saying, go have a family and spread your goodness to the world and take care of things. And the world is saying, stay in school, do absolutely nothing. Just sit there and shut up and don't do anything and behave. And so teenagers are stuck in this place where they're just like, this is miserable.
I love this. Yeah.
I can't be a man. I want to be a man. And women can't be women. They can't have a family. They can't connect to a man. They can't have listen, I'm not focusing on the women right now, so I don't want to sound sexist because I am not a woman, but a woman needs to be fully inner feminine, and that includes literally taking care of everybody. That is, when I went to social work school, 90% of the classes were all women. That's how it was. Did you bring this up on one of your topics?
Yes.
You asked it.
That was nice.
I knew that. I don't know why that came to me. No, it was funny. You know what I was thinking while I was listening to that? Okay, I'm going to give a little context. I'm talking a little fast. But you asked this guy a question. One of the therapists talking about IFS. Mm-hmm. And you asked him a question. You said, why do you think women are dominate the industry of helping much more than men? And he was somewhat surprised by that statistic. Mm-hmm. The reason he's surprised is because he's an Orthodox man.
Exactly.
And he probably got his degree online, so he never went to classes. I'm not knocking what I'm saying. It's probably, meaning I went to school and graduate school, and every class I went to, I was the only man. Mm. I mean, now it's much more popular, especially for men. But in the secular world,
wasn't that a thing?
It's dominated by women. Women are supposed to be holding everybody. We should all have a grandmother that holds us. We should all have a mother that holds us. We should. Right. So they got to be more in their feminine, and they're being chased into the world of like, go conquer in corporate America and go out there, and they're completely out of their thing.
Going back to Gedalia's fence there, we're being pushed in the wrong directions.
Right. So Gedalia is saying that's what's happening to us always. The thing is that what gave me the thinking is, holy cow, our society is promoting it.
Yes.
Our society is saying it's fine for a man to go into his feminine and a woman to go in his masculine. And that's never happened in history.
You're one of the people enabling that, though.
What do you mean?
You're enabling that community of just love and guys being held instead of guys being...
we're the feminine for them so that they could go be masculine.
Right.
Meaning, the way it works is... What I'm trying to fix with the community is that people need to feel in a container. I mean, they need the feminine power of the mother to be able to, the mother gives this idea of worthiness, gives you unconditional love. It holds you no matter what. And then the father gives you this idea of competence. Let's go out there and go kill it. And the father's actually the tougher part because the father's like, yeah, go fall off the tree. Go climb the tree and fall. And then you figure it out. You'll break your leg. Okay, walk it off. I don't mean to say it in a very masculine way, but the father says, I trust that you are going to make it in this world. And I even trust that you'll take risks that'll be so stupid. And I support those risks. Go take every one of those dumb risks. That's what the father says. The reason I'm building these communities is because we don't have that feminine part. It's not happening. The community contains us and holds us. But what I'm demanding of the people that come to the programs is, now you're held, now go. Be the man that you're supposed to be. And go take those risks. And one of the things I'm like, get a car. Take your cell phone, get a car, get a job, have money. Go out there and explore and see, find a real career, get your schooling, get your out there, and go make a difference. So it's an interesting question because I am actually acting within the feminine mold. That's what I'm saying. A community is a feminine. That's what it is. Actually, if you look at Judaism, Hashem is the Klal Yisrael is the bride, and Hashem is the masculine. So he's telling us go forward, and the community is the container. So that it is like this idea, but it's fascinating to live in a society where our biggest problem is being promoted. That's what the masculine and feminine. He brought that idea up, and we didn't explore it much further. This was cool to explore it further, but like I've been thinking about it since he said it. I'm like, oh my God. Basically, what happened is that we've been allowed to go in the wrong direction, and not only allowed, but the best thing you can say about a man, oh, he's such a sensitive man. He's so in touch with his feminine side. I got no issue with the feminine side, but what makes a man feel amazing is when he builds a house and he puts a family there and he provides for them and he protects them, and these are the things that make us feel incredible. And the best thing a woman could say to a man, I want to have Rabbi Schaefer from the Schmooze. He's nice. You ever see Rabbi Schaefer? Yeah. I haven't got him yet, but I'm going to get him. It's a shop. Rabbi Schaefer from the Schmooze is like, when he describes what a woman could do for a man, it's like, everybody gets upset, like triggered, but like if my wife, like, I do it all the time. I ask her. If I fix something, I'm like, come here.
Let's go.
What do you think about that?
Let's go.
And then,
sick.
And then she's like, wow, that's really good. I'm like, I am fully in my masculine right there. Like, I just want her to appreciate me doing something awesome for her. It's how I fill up. And the best way a woman can make a man fill up is tell them how much they appreciate their manliness. Go do it. Wow, I'm so happy that you have 3 jobs to provide for the family. Not, what the heck are you doing? You just have a job?
Right. Working all day?
Working all day. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
There's a TikTok video that just came out. I don't know if you saw it. It's like some woman complaining, I had 3 years, I'm living in this miserable marriage, and all my husband does is go to work, and I'm only in it for the money because I wanted to be a mother. And then the next part of the video is like, he left me after I put out that video.
Nice. What do you expect to happen? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But back to that question where you're saying before with every girl is so obsessed with the man being so sensitive now, and he's so in touch, and he's in tune and whatever. Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that what women want?
It is.
I think that's
okay, there's a part, you see, like we like to say the feminine. The man, no, actually, it's not what women want. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's what women think they want and what they really want, and they've proven over time, and many, many times, they all want someone who's wealthier than them. They all want something taller than them. Even been shown that they want someone smarter than them in statistics. They're looking for somebody. They're saying one thing and then looking for the other.
So you're talking about competence now. That's very clear, but
right. So they're deep in the masculine. They want to deep in the masculine type of guy. But here's the deal. I'm a very sensitive guy, and I would say in touch with my feminine. I think my way of helping and my way of being in my feminine is that I'm there for my wife. Like I'm going to listen to everything she has to say, and I want to be there. But to me, that's part of my masculine. But the getting in touch with feminine is I would walk in and be like, walk to my wife and be like, why aren't you holding me?
Nice.
You're
right, so
sitting
that's
here and you haven't held me. And I will tell you, I speak to a lot of men, and their whole desire is for, why isn't this woman taking care of me? They want to be taken care of. That's you.
Where's that deficiency coming from?
What?
Where's that deficiency coming from?
I'm not saying, that's what I'm trying to say. What Gedalia told me, it's not a deficiency.
It's just we're being pushed in the wrong direction.
It's just that we've been told that the wrong direction is fine, and it's not fine. And then someone like Jordan Peterson, who's like a healthy version of a rock bottom, which still pisses people off, but he's a healthier version saying, men, get up, wear a suit, get out there, make it happen. Although we're both wearing white shirts. But get a suit, get out there, make it happen. Those guys are like, whoa, toxic masculinity. And then you have Andrew Tate, who's doing it in a very nasty way.
Nice.
But people are very, very attracted to it. Oh, you telling me I could be a man again? I mean, he's doing it in a vulgar, disgusting
sure.
way. But to me, I see him as almost like kind of like the Flatbush Girl. He's
Exactly.
He's addressing an issue that is men are feeling weak. When I say that they changed to apathetic throughout my history of working with them, as we're going back to, the teenagers are like, what do I have to offer this world? I have this great story with this guy who worked for me, and he worked in a very inner city, like really tough type of high school. But it was like kids who got kicked out of high school had to go to this one. It was like a juvenile type of, like delinquent type of high school. So it's some tough guys, and he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he's just very kind, and he was having a conversation, and somebody brought up in the class, it's just all from poor inner city type kids, and someone brought up in the class, what's such a big deal about having fathers? Like, it's like, my mother raised me, she did a fine job. Everybody is two parent families, why do you need it? And he said, and this guy said to him, he said, then what's the point of view? Not the point of view. What is the point? What's your mission? Mm-hmm. If mothers could do everything,
then why is there men?
Then why do you need you? And I don't know what he answered, the guy answered or not answered, but what I'm saying is, that's a person who's been told that it's all right to not have a purpose and to not be the full you.
Yikes.
And I feel like when I think about men, and it's interesting because if you see the Frum girls, they are rocking. They're rocking. They're doing incredible stuff. And their schools are wild. I went to a Beis Yaakov dinner last night. I'm like, none of the boys' schools look like this. This is like, they're killing it.
That's wild.
The girls are doing great. And the guys are sitting around going, what is the point of me?
That's so crazy. Wow.
Is that not resonating with you?
That's wild.
Like, what is the point?
There's the apathy.
It's complete apathy. And it's more than apathy. It's like, so I feel like if you were able to like wake that up and like a podcast, like, where is that inner man in you? And I would tell you, when I'm talking this, I'm not talking to 15-year-olds. I'm talking about myself every night. Every single night I come home and I feel wiped out, and I'm just wishing that my wife would take care of me. And it's not that she's not wonderful and does it. She's not going to take care of me. She'll be there for me, but she is not going to be my mommy. And I'm so grateful in the big picture that she doesn't do it. But every single day I want it to happen. Every single day I want her to stand up and be a man and take care of me. I want you to just be a man and take care of me. If it's happening to me, and I've been thinking about this and focusing on this for freaking 30 years, of course it's happening to 15-year-old kids or 16-year-old kids. I mean, when you think about yourself, is this happening to you?
Of course, 100%.
Right. And if you meet a girl and you act like a man, they almost like, what do you, take it down, bro. Like, what do you mean, a macho man? Yeah, I'm being a macho man. Not in a toxic way.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
I really like what you're saying a lot.
You like it a lot?
A lot.
I can't wait to get my wife on the pod because the way I got my wife to marry me is I literally harassed her until she agreed. I felt like it was the most manly thing ever. I harassed her. I mean, she cared a lot about me. But she said no to me so many times.
No way.
And I had
That's
to
so cool.
But to me, that was like, a man should stand up and try to get the one he loves to be part of his life. I mean, maybe there are nicer ways to do it. I don't know. But I don't see that part of my life as that was me being in my masculine. You know, she, you know, no does not mean no. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No for answer. No means no.
So crazy. What's the next step then? Meaning,
I'm wondering if you could take. I'm trying to give you if you realize
this is obviously an alley-oop for me, by the way.
What?
It's a big alley-oop for me.
It's a big alley-oop.
Yeah.
Well, because what I'm saying to you is mission-wise, you're getting on the pod, and you're trying to act like an adult, probably, because you're going in with some big people. What you might miss there is the uniqueness of the fact is that you are the voice of the young.
Mm-hmm.
If you walked in and said like, listen, I'm intelligent, but I'm a kid. Not kid, but like I represent a disenfranchised, broken generation that does not know what their purpose is. That's who I represent. I don't represent, if you didn't try to skip those levels and you stayed where you are, it's going to be a very powerful podcast for teenagers. That's alley-oop. Giving you a mission.
Yeah.
When I hear people saying, when I hear teenagers hearing my thing, I'm like, I'm an adult. What are you getting from it? But if you say, hey.
But I don't know the exact words of Rabbi Fisher, but like what he always says, what is most present with yourself, the things you struggle with, everybody else is going through them as well. He says it really, really nicely. There's a way he says it. But what's most common for you is going to be broad to the entire world. Everybody's going to be going through the same things. We're all going through the same struggles. So at the same time, yeah, obviously you're much older than this 15-year-old that's listening to the podcast, but I think we could all resonate with, the examples you're talking about and the conversations you're having to some sort of level,
Yeah. Listen, we all go through it. Actually, one of the most depressing things that we could have in our life is we're like, I can't believe I'm still struggling with this after 20 years. Or after 10 years or 5 years or 3 years, whatever it is, like I thought I passed this.
Yeah.
The truth is we're always doing another level of our struggle. Right. We're always doing another level.
We're going up the ladder.
But I really love there's so few people doing the voice of the young. To me, it would be a little sad if you just skip that and be like, I kind of don't let anybody know
we got to be
how
macho.
young I am and just go in deep.
Yeah.
But like, what if you like say, what does a 15-year-old want to ask? I don't fully know. I know probably better than most adults, but I don't know like a 15-year-old. I haven't been a 15-year-old in at least
I think unspokenly
minutes.
Unspokenly that is something that we're definitely doing, I believe. I know specifically with some of the newer podcasts that aren't released yet, there's a lot of questions that Ari and I asked that were really, really directed towards finding what guys really want to do and finding what deeply resonates with our generation more than anything else. Because obviously I think things are changing and guys are asking these questions. If they're not vocalizing it, they're definitely asking in the heads and they're definitely struggling with it. So I think that there's gonna be a focus on that for sure. And it's been spoken about.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I don't know. Are there any other young people doing podcasts out there?
Not that I know of. I know there's some entrepreneurship guy, like strictly business. Not like.
And he's young?
Yeah. I think he's 19, 20. But
that's pretty cool.
Jewish guy.
Yeah?
Yeah, in 5 Towns. Cool guy. But I think what Ari and I are doing it's pretty unique. Meaning in regards to our age range.
So one of my big purposes, you didn't really answer the question of where it wants to go, but one of them is that like if you get famous enough, like talk about numbers, you can talk to anybody you want in the world.
Of course.
How cool is that?
It's insane. Yeah, 100%. But I don't have a good answer for that because where do I want to take it? I don't know. I just love what I'm doing and let's just keep going, Like shiny object syndrome. I don't want to like think about Joe Rogan. Like I'm not Joe Rogan. We're doing 2 different things. I don't want to be like Joe Rogan. There's certain things that I think I want to emulate from Joe Rogan, from other podcasts.
Wow, what do you think Joe Rogan does for the world?
I think he's an entertainer.
That's it?
I think that's majority. I think he's very entertaining.
I think he just put the president in his seat.
Oh, so I'm not holding like crazy.
No, I'm saying, what do you think he's doing?
I think he's very good at entertaining. Hard stop. Yeah, he has.
I don't think it's a hard stop. I think he's given us food for thought in so many topics where he'll take topics that are really hard to understand. I mean, like, I don't know if you watched it, but he had Bernie Sanders on for an hour and a half or whatever he had him on, maybe longer. Nobody ever got a conversation with the guy.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, oh, this is a human being. I could have a conversation with him. He's breaking down walls, in my opinion. Now he's gone very right-wing, but he's breaking down walls that have given people. I think he's making revolutions. I don't think he's an entertainer. I think that he literally, like the biggest mistake of Kamala Harris was not going on his pod. And I don't think he would have made her look bad.
Right.
He makes everybody look good.
I agree.
It was a huge mistake, and it's a mistake because we're all listening. I want to hear a 3-hour conversation. I want to hear, like I listen to Ravi Fisher Shear, or I listen to Ravi Kailash Shear, but I want to hear what he thinks in a conversation.
Right.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it for 3 hours. I want to hear what he has to say. I want to hear why tell me, like, what is it that he really thinks and believes. Now, and there are many, many other people I could think of that I want to hear. Like everybody hearing a speech, it's like you're telling me one little tiny piece of you, but you could have a conversation with someone, you could learn so much more. So I mean, I think the reason I'm kind of like hitting back on the Joe Rogan thing, I don't think he's an entertainer. I think he uses his ability to entertain to do some incredibly powerful things. Like there are a lot of people that could take that and just be inflammatory,
right,
and just have fun with it. Or you could do something awesome with it. I'm saying I guess you're too early to think about
right.
Awesomeness.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking for Joe Rogan, for example. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of conversation I've listened to that's just like,
there's nothing going on.
Yeah, there's nothing going on. So it could be, it might be like more selective. I don't know, but there's definitely cool conversations. Like, let's say Trump or Bernie Sanders, whatever it is, that people didn't give time of day. First of all, okay, Trump is insane, but yeah, I definitely hear that. It's a certain level of being open-minded and not shutting things down.
I'm curious. I mean, he could go, but I will tell you, if Joe Rogan decided, listen, I'm only having very powerful, meaningful conversations, he would lose a huge audience.
For sure. His
chillness of like, oh, I want to do a UFC fight now. And I want to do, he's doing what he wants. The
or
conversation
Theo Von, you know?
Yeah. Right. Theo Von's amazing. He's one of the genuinely funniest guys I've ever seen. But they're having conversations that are fun and entertaining, and then all of a sudden, it slipped in something really wild.
I hear what you're saying.
I think that's the most I've learned in my life, and from anything. I read books like endlessly. I would say I learned a lot more from fiction than nonfiction when it's in a story.
Wow.
I'm reading a story, and I read in nonstop, called a bibliophile. I don't know if you know that's the name of someone who loves books, but I'm a bibliophile. It sounds bad, but it's not.
Yeah, by the way.
Sounds
it's like a weird cult, you know?
Yeah, I'm a
bibliophiles.
But I will tell you that I sit down with a fiction book, blows my mind, and I read it. At the end, I'm like, oh my God, that shifted my view.
Nice, right.
So what I'm saying is like...
Stories are much better at selling than just information.
Right. So Joe Rogan's having a conversation. They're talking about this, talking about that, stupid things. All of a sudden, boom, they said something like, what just happened there?
This is good. Rav Gav was saying this, that why humor works so well, because you're feeding him entertainment, you're feeding them humor, and then you're going to shove the pill down their throat right after. So you're going to shove in your mustard or whatever you want through that. Its delivery is so important. Right. But yeah, I agree with the fiction story for sure. I think stories sell way, way better than just information or just the product. The product, yeah.
I mean, that's very what, how am I forgetting the name of the nanny with the umbrella?
Mary
Poppins.
Yeah.
Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. That's
exactly.
Rav Gav was quoting that.
Exactly.
That's what it is. All right.
Wow.
How long does it go for?
I have no idea.
I'm seeing your ADHD taking over. I'm watching it. I got it. I will tell you that I have like a dream of doing like 6-hour podcasts. I don't think anybody will listen to that.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of good clips.
What?
There's going to be a lot of good clips.
Yeah, they're like, I watched that. I didn't see any of those clips.
You're sleeping half the time.
It was in the second 4 hours.
Exactly.
It is pretty amazing that you have people that are teens that are watching 3-hour podcasts.
Not 3 hours. One day. Right now we're like an hour and a half, hour 45 max. See, that's like the scary zone.
You did hour 45 already?
Yeah. I've got hopefully being posted today. It's gonna be an hour 45.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So okay, so it doesn't matter. Oh, so last question.
Okay.
Last question is your rooftop question.
Rooftop question?
Rooftop question. See? The rooftop question comes at the end of the pod. So you don't have to worry so much unless I make it into a clip, because nobody ever makes it. You know what I'm saying? It's too long. The rooftop question is if you're standing on a rooftop, you don't want to yell something to the world. You want to yell it and tell everybody in the world some idea. And just they're all sitting and listening. What are you yelling off the roof?
I'm yelling, just listen.
Come on.
I'm serious.
Okay.
That's
Say it longer.
That's exactly what we're just talking about this entire not the entire podcast.
Yeah.
But we're talking about literally just sitting down with someone that you have maybe you had interest having a conversation with, but a Flatbush girl. Most people don't want to look at her, right? The people that hate her, at least. But just listening, I think you could for sure come to some sort of positive outcome just by sitting down and having a conversation with someone. Have a conversation, listen. I really, really think that we have so many preconceived notions, and growing up in a like spiral of a conveyor belt conditions us to have all those preconceived notions and all these walls and barriers. So I think just listening, you could really, really gain a lot from. And I think we could come to very, very good terms with whatever, whoever, and however.
I love it.
You hear what I'm saying?
It's acceptable.
Okay. Acceptable? Wow.
It's your rooftop yell.
Yeah.
I can't mess with
Right.
it.
I don't know if I would scream that from the rooftop, but I think that's a good message. I don't know what I would scream from the rooftop, like, dude.
Well, by the
It's
way,
a little too
you
cheesy.
have
It's
a rooftop.
It's a little too cheesy for me.
You have a rooftop.
What do you mean?
Rooftop just means I'm sending something out and thousands of people are going to listen.
No, so I'm picturing myself on top of like
I don't know if you're up to thousands, but just people listening.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I don't want you to get nervous. But because you're the only one doing it, you may be responsible for being the voice of the young.
It's a big responsibility.
I think it's a responsibility. It might be a little humbling also because you want to act like a big tough guy, but it might be a little humbling. Yeah. I don't know. You gotta like, it's hard to be secure being the young one.
Yeah, for sure.
I also started really, really young.
Confidence, just get out there. Just do it.
Dude, you're killing it. Thank you for coming.
Son,
you're amazing.
It's a pleasure.
That was awesome.
Bring it in, bro.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live anew.